Welcome back to Bulletproof Mindset, Scotland's #1 health, fitness and entertainment podcast. So today we welcome Heather Reilly on the show, who has a background in CrossFit, and you can imagine what sort of debates that we end up getting into. Now, for you guys who don't know Heather, Heather is a badass when it comes to training in general, all the way from strength training up to competing in CrossFit comps. She's done it all. And in terms of empowering other females to lift weights, she is at the top of her game, and you won't want to miss out today's conversation on her journey and sharing some of her clients' success stories. Now, make sure you follow Heather on social media. Her social links will be below wherever you're listening or watching this. And if you're looking to work with Heather, we're going to leave her consultation form below as well. And in today's episode, we spoke a lot about lifting weights and strength training. So if you came across this and you don't know where to start, me and James has put together a free 30-day workout program. The link for that will also be below. And of course, if you're finding us for the first time, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating on wherever you choose to listen to this, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It helps us grow the show, but it also feeds our ego as well. Now, without further ado, we hope you enjoy today's episode. Let's get into it.
Well,
That's the main thing.
I know, sometimes we would listen back to the podcast and I'd laugh, but it would be so close to the mic and it would be too loud.
Distorted
You
and
need
stuff like that.
lower the volume for that certain section.
Is James loud and JD?
You've not really been there?
I've not been the past 2 weeks because I've had qualifiers and stuff, so I've been at all my CrossFit gyms more than JD, and rather than doing my own thing. But I'll be back now. It's all out. No, because when there's qualifiers and stuff on, it's so annoying because it pure mucks up your own training, because you need to organise to go to a gym. You need a judge. You don't need a judge, but it's nice to have a judge. You want to do it with people because you want everyone around you and pure egging you on.
Yeah. So what's this for? Qualifiers
for Proving Grounds. It's a competition that's in Glasgow. So it's actually the two owners of the CrossFit gym that I go to, Base Fitness. They're running Proving Grounds. They used to do it. They've done it for years, but they didn't do it for 3-4 years there because COVID and whatever else. Mm-hmm. And then they done it last year, and me and Neely, we got second place.
I was going to say,
for our category.
You going for a win this time?
So me and Neely aren't partners anymore because she's an RX athlete, but I'm intermediate. But last year we were every day, and then so we're both competing with different girls now.
Right.
But we're both
friendly competition.
No, we won't be competing against each other, so it'll be good because I'll get to watch her compete. Okay. She'll get to watch me compete, which will be good. But the competition's not till October, so we've got 8 weeks or something.
Right.
To get our arse in gear, but we've qualified. So you need to do qualifiers, which is 4 workouts. Submit your scores, submit your videos. That all gets looked at and compared to everyone else. And then there's a week kind of biting point where you kind of have to wait and see if you've...
Interesting. I didn't realise it was that much you went into it. So have you always competed in CrossFit? No.
Just since last year.
You just got a buzz for it?
Yeah, it's so fun. You should do it.
Whoa.
I'm pretty sure.
That's fine.
I'm pretty sure there's some confrontation.
No confrontation. Maybe controversial. There'll be no confrontation. So we obviously our stance. Well, I don't know if you're the same as me. I'm no.
Since you see, training up here, training Gym 24, training New Age. There's no CrossFit. The only person I've ever seen doing kind of CrossFit was Dan.
Dan Kinland. Do you know him?
Do you know him?
He's a badass when it comes to
maybe I do know. I'm terrible with names and faces.
Where's he? Where's he?
He's a PT at New Age. But he does training
in Hamilton
and
Coatbridge.
All right.
But anyway, so CrossFit is we've done over 100 episodes with this, and it's the conversation that's came up, and we train average clients, average Jill and Joe's lifestyle. We try to get people encouraged into lifting weights.
Yep, same. That's what my clientele is as well.
So the question that got brought up to us early on was, is CrossFit a good style of working out? Mm-hmm. And our answer to that was, well, probably is 5 or 6 levels away from where you're going. But in reality,
I agree with that. I totally agree.
With that. I knew you would. But we get I'm good friends with Dan. Dan's right into CrossFit, and I give him shit all the time on this, and he's not even on here to defend himself. But it'll be interesting.
He's never been on. We're always slaughtering him.
So you're the first person coming on the show that's got a good bit of background in that, and we are oblivious to it. I've done one. What was it? An EMOM.
I walked in.
It's so funny when people go, EMOM, what does EMOM mean?
Him and Dan were doing it. I was like, mate, what are you doing?
So how did you get into that then? Take us back. So you've always been into your health and fitness then, I would imagine.
I've not always been into it. I got more like into training in the gym when I was like 15, 16. I must have been like 5th or 6th year in school. Right. And I started going like St Margaret's, and I literally just walked around to NL Leisure every day after school because I was bored. Nothing else to do. I used to get on it all the time and that, obviously.
Is that different?
Obviously, man. That's what we done that's what you done when you're from Chapel Hall. Like that's what you got up to. But I didn't want to do it anymore. I also was very obsessed with being skinny. Like, and back then I was very like small, and like when I look back now, I'm like, oh god, I was actually tiny. But I never ever thought I was. I always thought I had to be smaller. And I used to just like, if I got the bus home from school, I would run to the gym, which I actually checked not that long ago, because I was like, how fucking long is that? It's a fucking 5k. Yeah. I was doing 5k's to the gym, doing a MetaFit, then running back. No, not every day. I would do it sometimes though, because I couldn't get a lift to the gym or back from the gym. So I would go to the gym after school, do like, there was I think it was like 5:10 MetaFit, and I can't remember the guy's name that takes it, but I'm pretty sure he still does like MetaFit and Insanities and that. The time. And he was fucking nuts, and I loved it. Just crazy. It was so good. And then I would do that, run on the treadmill for a while, then do like an LBT, and then like I was a pure class, loved it, cardio bunny. But I loved it. I just loved the way it made me feel. And then I started like lifting weights more, and I asked one of the what's Reese's second name again? Can't remember his name, but he works in
Ultimate Fitness.
What's his second name again?
I can't remember.
He was a very, very first PT to give me like a wee workout plan. Done that.
With weights and that then.
Aye, like with weights and stuff. And then, but I don't know, NL Leisure didn't have squat racks.
Well,
they never had squat for years.
Have you seen them now? So they've just updated Wishes, so and they've got something like 12 racks. That they're building in.
See, that's good. So Adria's like got done up years ago, and now I think they're
just about to
do it again. But like before that time there, it was like you had a Smith machine upstairs. Upstairs was like the weights where all the guys were, and I ended up being the only girl that was ever there. And like there was a few boys that were in the year above me that always trained the same time, and it was just all of us. And I'm still like really good pals with all of them. And then from there, it just improved. But one regret I always have is like I wish I got a coach when I started
at the start,
because I fucked about for about 3 years because I never.
Though.
And it's expensive, but I also didn't really know like about like having a PT, like you can get one, or like learning a lot more. Like I just fucked about so much and like done everything wrong, but then I also then taught myself to do it all right. So I was like, to be fair, it's probably made me a better coach because I then had to learn.
You become a good coach by making all these fucking mistakes.
Being really shy and then
you look back and go, oh my god.
No, see the old squat videos I have?
They'll be crazy.
They're probably better than mine. Like my training used to be fucking horrendous.
It was just really bad. And then I moved to and then I became a PT. While I was at uni and stuff.
What were you doing at uni? Were you doing sports?
I was doing sports management at uni, and then I just fucking hated it. I hated uni.
What kind of job would that take, Kenny?
No idea. I have no idea.
Just something to do with sports somewhere.
Something to do with sports or like sports marketing or something like that. Something
very boring.
Those. Yeah. And I was just like, I hated uni, and then I'd done my PT course while I was still in uni.
Right.
And then uni got to a point I was like, I don't want to do this. But I had been coaching children since I was like 16, like with NL Leisure.
Yeah.
And then so I knew I liked working with people and doing that sort of thing. So then that's why I started PTing.
So
but CrossFit didn't really happen until like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And that happened because, love this piece story. I went to the Scottish Fitness Expo years ago. It was the last one that they'd done. It's not happened in a few years. And I went with my pal Kyle, and we were just seeing, didn't really know what to expect or whatever. And the Glasgow Classic, which is a CrossFit competition, was happening while this fitness expedition was happening. And I'm like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Who are all these jacked people? Who are all these hot boys? And then I pure remember it. Like they must have been like, I think it was like one RM's clean and jerk or snatch, but I remember watching Ali Crawford doing her lift and being like, that was fucking cool. And then I remember there was a boy, Mark, that I knew, and I was speaking to him and Jordan Green and stuff like that. They were all talking, and I knew who these people were. I didn't know what they'd done or whatever. I just knew them because of Instagram, and I was speaking away to them. And Ali Crawford came round and she was showing us her hands. Her hands were all torn from doing like the workout they had been doing because we were obviously on the bars, and I was just looking at her thinking, she's fucking class. Like she's jacked. She was like an older woman, but like she was like so athletic looking, like she strong. Like when you watched her training, you were just like, what the hell? And I was like, I want to do this.
So where were you at with your training at this point? I was
deadlifting and stuff. Yeah, I was like deadlifting and squatting, and I was like training better at this point and like properly, but I was still just doing bodybuilding. Right. I never really ventured into doing it until like a year, like properly, like until like a year and a bit later. And then during lockdown and that, I never really done it. I wish I did. That's a pure regret. I wish I'd just done CrossFit during lockdown. So I would have got so good at it.
So were you training during lockdown?
I did train during lockdown. I didn't pure commit to CrossFit though. Because I had like weights and stuff. I just done like bodybuilding.
Simple.
Which is fine. Like I just done the simple stuff and then went running. I ran all the time during lockdown, to be fair.
Yeah. Interesting. So I don't know you personally, but some of our clients have crossed paths, and that's how I started hearing your name. And you were probably one of the first coaches I came across where, you know what it's like, sometimes you get, and it's hard to like take judgment from what a client says. Yeah. But you were the first coach where people were coming to me and they were like, oh yeah, I've had experience deadlifting and squatting. I'm like, oh, fucking brilliant. Because anytime there's people are coming to me, it's like,
it's an uncommon thing sometimes.
It's like high intensity classes, cardio, cut calories. And I'm like, for our style and what we do, it's about getting people like eating, actually showing them the benefit, eating more food, getting them stronger, more empowered, confidence, all this sort of stuff. So how did that come about? Was that just pure fluke from the people that you were working around, or
what, like
from getting into the compound list? Because like you said, our gyms that we all had access to like 10 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, when we started working out,
it was like bicep curl, leg press.
Nobody was at the squat rack, and if you were deadlifting, it looked weird because people were like, what is that guy doing? Like, and I think people hear us talk about this, especially the younger folk, and they're like, what? Everybody deadlifts now? And
I know, it's like if you don't deadlift, it's like, why not? I actually know someone that's like pure against deadlifting and squat.
I know loads of people, and it pisses me off. I get fucking raging.
I'm like, oh, come on. It's annoying. So I think it was probably from the fact that I just learned that I knew I needed to do all of that stuff to grow properly. Like I was always like, I want to be skinny and whatever. When that flipped and that changed, and I was like, no, I actually want to be strong and I want to be bigger. I want to grow my glutes and all that sort of thing. And I've definitely followed very good influencers on Instagram, which definitely has an effect on
absolutely
what you learn and like what your outlook is. And so see when people are pure like, oh, Instagram's terrible, I'm like, it's not. It's who you're following or who you're letting into your circle. And I followed, I don't know if you know these girls, but do you know the KK Fit twins?
Yeah.
They're really big on Instagram. I followed them for years and years, and they always lifted heavy. And they always done deadlifts, they always done squats, they always done these things. And then there was like a few other girls that I was like, that looks fucking class.
So being
sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm just so bad for that. But I'd never seen other girls doing it in person.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it because like what you said, women were all like in Rev, like all the classes were just women, and that's what most of them done. And even when I trained and like worked and trained in Rev for years, there wasn't that many girls that lifted heavy. There's me, Chloe, Tom, and a few others that would like actually squat and deadlift. Do you know what I mean? It's still in certain pockets of places that still is the case, but it is definitely much more common. Like you go to JD now, and like most girls are like RDL and squat and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Which is amazing to see, because we're so oblivious sometimes because we talk about the message so much, but the whole, oh no, I don't want to get bulky, I don't want to get too big and all that sort of stuff.
Hard enough to get bulky.
I've been trying for years.
I know. I try my hardest. I try my fucking hardest.
I really want to be bulky.
So that's the message we talk about all the time. So going back to like when you were wanting to get skinnier and skinnier, because I don't think we had our friend Katie Byers on the show, and also we're two guys, right? So having a female perspective, I've got a wife, so I've got more of this female perspective. And me and Dale's wife
clash all the time.
I've got more of a female perspective in my life than what James does. But from like a young age, then what was the reason for like the skinniness? Did you know where that came from, or was it just the?
No, I pure idolised like Kendall Jenner, Kate Moss. Like I wanted. This is so weird. I have a wee diary. I don't know if you kept diaries, but I'm pretty sure all girls do.
No, I've never had a diary in my life.
Right, well, I have like the boxes. I've got these 3 shoe boxes in my cupboard in my room that I have just like, one's got just like random shit like tickets, lanyards from like festivals, all these mad random things.
Memory
like,
boxes type
just
of thing.
be memory boxes, right? But one of them's got diaries in it, and there's a big one in it. I'm going to actually, when I go home tonight, I'll send you a picture. one of these nannies has got like cut out pictures from magazines of these girls.
Right.
Okay.
Because I wanted to look like them.
Yeah.
So when we
like
talk
I
about...
just thought, because I grew up watching all these girls and being like, because that body type was like idolized, and that the only body type that was idolized, and everything you watched was like skinny girls. And if there were girls that were a bit heavier in shows or whatever, they were always the fat one. Aye. And there's actually like I seen a reel about it the other day, and it was like, this is why my body dysmorphia is whatever, blah blah blah. And it was like wee clips from movies, and it was like girls that maybe have like the tiniest bit of body fat, and they're like, oh, look at that. And I'm like, I remember watching that and thinking that as
so
well.
When we talk about the power of influence and influencers online, so we didn't really have it. I had Bebo growing up. How old are you?
I had Bebo on online.
How old are you?
25.
All right, so you're a wee bit younger than me. I'm 30 this month, so.
Are you 30?
I know. Don't remind me.
I feel like you're my age.
No, he's not. No. See, if you spend enough time, you go, you're older. I promise you that.
As if you're daft.
Yeah.
To be fair, most of the boys like I work with and hang about with are all like 30 and up.
Upwards. So when I was growing up, we had Bebo. Facebook just became a thing, and then Instagram was like just as I left high school. Yep. Did you have that going through high school as much, or was it just?
I had Bebo like. Yeah, I had people from quite young, and Facebook I had when I was like from like first year onwards, and then I got Instagram maybe like second or third year. Yeah, I definitely had it. Scroll right down there.
It's like
my pics.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, so that's definitely a massive influence, but obviously it can be a good thing because that's what made me want to kind of change it, because you learn things and you're like, oh right, okay.
So we just done an episode on body dysmorphia and some tips to overcome that, but one of the points we brought up was like guys and girls will approach this differently, and I think girls have had a harder upbringing with it, with like you said, like the chasing the skinny image and all that sort of stuff. I definitely think there's a shift where there's more empowerment to lift weights and get stronger and all that sort of stuff.
So much more.
But there's still a huge market out there. I feel when I'm getting new clients on and they are feeling it's like, I don't want to get too bulky, and I'm like, I didn't realise that message is still out there as much.
It definitely still is out there. And I think the most difficult thing is to try to get women to eat more.
It's
fucking solid.
Yeah.
It's hard. Even sometimes, this is funny, my two best pals, Mikey and Greg, they'll feel laugh at this, because even I still have conversations with them about food, and because I still struggle to come away from it, because sometimes I get, and I'm like I get this inclination of being like lean all the time, or I want to be skinnier, or I want to be leaner all the time, and I'm like, but that doesn't that's not what I need to be doing for like my goals. But sometimes I'm like, oh, because you look at yourself and you think, oh, I'm a fat bastard or something, and I'm no. But like I look at myself and then I'm like, but I'm not. And then people are like, what do you see? But like how you see yourself is sometimes so distorted.
What do you see in that when you're in that frame of mind though? Like how are you actually feeling?
And see as well, like see for women, because our bodies also change from week to week because your cycle. It's not necessarily because of you or like what you're doing differently with your training or your eating. But like for a week solid, I'm so bloated, and like your actual emotions are all over the place. So your thoughts about yourself are different. Yeah. And when you do look at yourself, you're like, oh, I can't. Oh, that's like shite. So then that'll make you want to eat less because you think that'll fix it. Well, what I used to be like, you would be like, oh my God. So I know so many women are like that. So girls are like, I don't want to do my progress photos this week because I'm dead bloated, I'm due my period. I went, the one thing you should do is take them, because now you can see what you look like, and you need to get used to it, because that's what's happening to your body every single month.
Yeah,
it's real. Just accept that's what it's like, because then you'll start to accept the fluctuations from week to week. You'll then start to accept yourself more, so your body dysmorphia is a bit like less, but like, yeah, it's so hard to deal with that.
For sure.
Guys are the same. Like,
we've got that. Like we're almost like
got that as well. Like it's not just women.
And
you know, like why am I not big yet?
yeah. No, it's definitely at both ends. But that's why I wanted to kind of speak to you about this, because you'll have more experience with that. So going through your like upbringing in that, is that where lifting weights and getting stronger helped you disconnect from the body dysmorphia in a way, or just want to change your body dysmorphia?
For sure, because your goals shift. It's less about how you look and more about what your body can do, and
absolutely,
and not exactly.
Yeah, right.
And like sometimes, but like I said, like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not as lean or small as I used to be. But then I'm like, but I'm also lifting fucking 80 kilogram over my head.
It's like
I would have never been able to do that before.
How does your period affect your training? Because your training is obviously very intense.
So that's funny you asked that, because I actually spoke to a client about that this morning. I'm so in tune with my cycle now. Like, I know exactly what I need when I need it, or like, and see, because I really take care of my cycle, it doesn't really affect my training that much.
What do you mean by taking care of it?
So, for instance, like a client said to me the other day, she was like, I'm all over the place, like my hunger's all over the place, I don't feel great, like I'm really bloated, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, she'd been drinking at the weekend. That has a massive effect on your cycle, especially if you're due your period. So, see the kind of like 2-week period, maybe like 2 weeks to 7 days before you're due your period, that's your luteal phase, right? So that's when girls experience like PMS symptoms, like premenstrual symptoms. So it's like low mood. Like low mood's a massive one, because that affects everything. If you've got a low mood, your nutrition's all over the joint. Like, you don't really want to train, but you should be training, all that sort of thing. Your sleep's disturbed, all these different things. And if you drink alcohol, that makes it worse.
Right.
You know what it's like when you're rough. Imagine being rough and having all your PMS symptoms as well. It's going to be the roughest week of your life, and you hate yourself. So see, around that time, I just avoid alcohol. I just don't drink it, because I track my cycle. My cycle's pretty like regular and pretty bang on. But it took me ages to learn that. But some girls can't be bothered learning that. And I'm like, I get all my clients, I'm like, where are you? If they've got a problem, like, where are you? All these, if you had a problem with like your training and your nutrition or whatever, you felt shite, there'd be a list of things you'd look at to go, right, that's good, I've been shite with that, so maybe I need to work on that. For girls, it's the exact same thing, but also their cycle. So I'm always like, you need to think of that as well. But see, because I like work my life around my cycle, in the sense that during that PMS week, I don't have alcohol. I make sure I like have a wee bit more sleep. I'm a wee bit more relaxed with like, not training, but I'll know that I'll maybe need an extra rest day. But I'll maybe need it. And that's like underline maybe, because girls will be like, oh, I'm due my period, so I'm going to train less. I'm going to not try and get a PR. I'm not going to, because I'm due my period. I'm usually stronger when I get my period. I'm usually stronger like right just before it and when I get it. So see, if I think how many girls are like, oh, I'm due my period tomorrow, so I'm just not going to go to the gym for the next few days.
So they miss it that phase.
And they miss that opportunity that they could be. But then some girls are the complete opposite. But they won't know unless they like experiment and try it. And I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram lately, where girls are like, during this month or during this week you should do yoga, this week you should do this. And I'm like, just follow your training plan the way it's meant to be followed. And track your cycle. And if there are weeks where it's like, you're not really hitting the same weights that you should be or whatever, and then you're like, and that's all right, that's fine, and that is the week that you're on your periods, like, we'll keep a note of it and be like, right, and be aware of that. And then next cycle round, when that happens again, if it does, you're like, oh, it's because I'm fucking, my uterus walls are falling off. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like,
it's a brilliant response, because we've done a few episodes on this, and just the whole blanket statement, it's almost, people like to confuse it.
I hate blanket statements. Everyone's so individualised. Like, you do not know.
It depends should be the most common answer.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't, like, if someone asks me, I'm like, I'm not really sure. You'll need to find out. You'll need to track your cycle. And see, another thing, see if you can track your calories, you can track your cycle, and it does my head in when girls, and I'm like, you need to learn about, you're an adult, like, and for women, it's annoying, because we've all, like, girls grew up not learning about any of this. None of it. The only reason I learned about it is because my PMS was like, I actually thought I was like manic. I thought I had manic depression, because I was like, my life was all over the joint for about a year, and I had like 2 weeks of being pure high,
sound designing,
and then 2 weeks of like doom. And I was like, why am I like this? I never once thought it was my cycle.
So
I never once clicked, and then I was like, and then that's when I started reading into it more.
So what you said there, like understanding the awareness, we talk about this for fat loss phases and stuff. Everyone just goes straight into diet or straight into a workout program, and there should be like a period of time of just going, right, let's actually just track where you're at, And then from there, we can understand and make better decisions of getting you ready for a fat loss.
To know where you're
into it.
I know.
Yeah.
Drop your calories, move more than this. What would you actually do the now though?
Exactly.
That's like everybody's strategy.
The funniest thing was when we done that, like we done a full podcast on periods, etc.
Right.
We were like, better not fuck this up.
You started getting your notes out.
So we were talking and James started going like right into like really complicated words. And I was like that.
I'd been reading up on it, so I'm like, we better not fuck this up.
And I was like, let's just keep it
fair
top
enough,
level.
I like that.
No, but it needed to be. But it was good. It was good.
It's top level because most clients who work with personal trainers is girls, is females.
Yeah.
So like to go out with it, like everyone gets a generic blanket statement. It's like, well, actually, it's a wee bit like independent, and here's the signs that you can look for. Like sometimes you might be stronger, sometimes you might not. So really good. That's a really good perspective.
It really does depend on the person. Like,
and it probably changes month to month.
And
it
does change.
As well.
That's another thing I say to that client there, because I was saying about alcohol. So for like 10 weeks or something like there, I didn't drink at all, and most of my cycles have all been fine. But that one there, I wasn't any weaker or anything in the gym. I was just as fine, just as good. Like I still like trained really well, actually done better than what I thought I would. And then my cramps were fucking awful and I felt exhausted, and I don't really get like that, but I'd been drinking and stuff at the weekends. And
so you start piecing together.
So there was a wee bit of differences there. So like had been drinking, so my sleep wasn't as good, and maybe wasn't too great for like 2 or 3 days. And then like your nutrition's got a huge effect on it as well. And so I'm a bit like, for girls, I'm sometimes like, well, you just need to fucking get your act together. I'm sorry, but like sometimes you need to hear that, because I'm like, if you're eating shite, you're obviously going to feel shite, but it also has an effect on your cycle, which also can make you feel rubbish. And they're like, oh, well, it's shite being a girl, I want to take a pill. And I'm like, no, you just need to make a bit more effort, because there's also massive positives to it as well, because during your cycle you get the big highs where you are much stronger, you're much more confident, and like your skin clears up and your hair looks better. Like it does happen. And then you might have wee dips, but your dips won't be as bad if you're taking care of yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we realise how nutrition is strongly correlated to hormones, to overall health, to just, and that's the power of eating more food, more fuel, and eating the right types of foods as well would kind of
quality is still important. And do you not think now in the industry, because everyone's like macros and calories, I'm like, see when I see like what I eat in a day's, and it's like
Cocoa
protein bar. I mean, I fucking love a bowl of
No.
I'm like right there. Hold on. But like all the time, like Cocoa Pops for the breakfast every morning or something, and then they have like Am Protein Squares bar, and then they have a grenade bar.
It's all processed.
And I'm like, where's your vegetables? Where's your lean meats? Like where's your whole foods? Like where's some cooking?
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? I hate that. But then for women as well, back to that point, if I look at a client's food and I'm like, no wonder you feel tired all the time, because you've got where's the real food here? Like
that, sometimes your protein's probably. Do you find that a lot of clients that you work with, their protein is lower then? Is that the same?
Girls. No, I mean some of my clients nail it.
Yeah.
No issue. I've got some clients I've never even had to speak to about like making more effort to hit their protein. They've just nailed it. But then there's some people that are like hit 70 and 80 and they really struggle. Really struggle, and it's maybe because they don't really like eating that much meat, or their portion sizes are much smaller for that.
Do you find a lot, like some of my clients say, but I don't eat red meat and all that, and it's mostly females that say that, and I'm
mostly females, yeah.
I'm like, where is this came from?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, I was vegetarian for like 3 years, and it was because I kind of got up. I was like, every time I ate meat.
I know. So a lot of my clients are the same. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't eat red meat all the time. I have steak at least like once a week, and then I'll have mince. I'll have like 500 grams of mince like throughout my week, because I'll meal prep that specifically. Having it today actually.
Interesting. So you mentioned there
But sorry, interrupting.
It's all right.
But I do that more so for health, because I know I need it.
It's good.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm like, I've not had steak yet. I'm gonna need to have steak. I've not had steak in a while. I need to have that in, because that's why I think about it. Like I like steak, but
you can get the bulk for it at the same time. But you know it's good for you, so you've drawn a line
of like, you still get the bulk for steak?
Sometimes.
What?
See if it's not cooked well.
Oh, obviously.
I like it medium, right? But see if it's shite. I'm like,
right, let's actually just talk about steak, because James said something that
No. See the way this man cooks a steak.
Do you put a timer on when you cook your steak?
Well, I've kicked it like 4 times.
All right, okay. Maybe not
we're talking
because when I have it, it's when I'm out.
James was appalled that I didn't put a timer on. I was like, no, you eyeball it, fry.
I would eyeball it.
Thank you.
I'm not listening to some days only cook steak.
Oh, don't admit that. I didn't say it was shite though.
Right, so backing up, you said did you get diagnosed with PMS? Did you sort that out?
I never got I never got formally diagnosed, but like obviously just looked at all the symptoms and I knew, and I was like, oh, that makes fucking sense. And then I started really tracking my period and really tracking how I felt, and like I've got wee diaries on my notes and all that. It was rough, by the way. Really rough. There was like a period of time when I was like, I didn't go to work for like 10 days. I stayed in my room. I was like, I can't live my life like this. Why am I like this? And it's really frustrating because it is actually quite like you don't understand what's going on, and you think I genuinely thought I had depression. Like I was like, what? But then it was weird because then it would be like a 2 or 3 week period where I'd be like wild. I'd be just so happy and like hyperactive and whatever, and like my normal self. And then it'd be like doom and gloom, and I'm like, why does that keep happening? And no, I never once thought it was to do with my cycle because I never knew. Just didn't know.
So you started piecing the puzzle. So nutrition was a big component. Alcohol.
Nutrition was a massive component because I wasn't eating enough like good stuff. Like really eating enough good stuff. I was like counting my calories and stuff, but I wasn't having like now I have like between like, I mean it varies sometimes week to week, but like every day I'll have at least like 400 grams of like veg, and then on top of that between like 2 and 3 for fruit. Most people don't have any veg.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like simple stuff like that. My sleep was my sleep's terrible. It's not anymore, but it used to be really, really bad. And that has a huge effect on it. And like there was all these wee things, like there was like all these wee things that I wasn't doing right, and then I just started making them all slightly better, and then it started to get
overall better.
But I also started to take it got recommended to me because my skin, I've always had like hormonal acne, but my skin flared up a lot as well, and I got recommended this supplement called DIM, and it's like an extract from leafy greens.
Okay.
Pretty sure that is. I'll double check.
You've said it now. So
I know it's like that's it now.
Everybody else get that.
I'm gonna get cancelled or something for fucking recommending something that's shite. But I took that for like 3 months as well.
Right.
And then I didn't really start to feel and see a difference until I had been doing all of that for about 4 or 5 months.
Right.
So it took a while because it's not going to change like that. It's the same for like a fat loss client or gaining weight or whatever. If you're trying to fix your health, it's just as long. Like you need to do it consistently. And then it was like night and day. Like it was quite wild to be fair. And I was like, oh my God, like my skin had cleared up and I didn't have those massive dips. So like when you look at a woman's menstrual cycle, they do have like highs and lows with their hormones. But for me, like my highs were so high, which is fine. But my lows were like fucking on their arse.
Yeah.
And it was just too much to deal with. So if I went to the reason why I didn't go to the doctors was because I don't fucking like them.
This is why
I'll get more on that and all. Right?
This is why I was asking you about it, because I've got a lot of clients who've tried to go through and it's just taking forever.
That's why I'm like, girls, you need to do it on your own because you'll not learn anything off. I've never learned anything off my GP. Never. Yeah. When I did go to them all the time, but anyway, you have those highs and lows. When women. I've had so many girls message me, like when I used to do Women's Health Wednesdays, I would get girls every Wednesday messaging me about like all the stuff that would happen with them with GPs and stuff like that. And I'm like, look into it yourself.
Yeah.
It's your body, like it's your responsibility. You need to deal with yourself. I get why people obviously go to doctors. I get it, right? But
the thing is, I think it's like coaches on it, because people could be, they're like, nah, I don't want to lift weights because their experience with lifting weights has been bad.
So I've had a terrible experience with a GP. So now I've got this
vendetta against them.
So now I've got this terrible opinion on GPs, but obviously it's not the case for everyone. But I don't know what my point was. What was I talking about there? The highs and lows. Yeah. So when I've had a few girls message with this saying like when they've went to a GP about this, their solution was going on the pill, because when you go on the pill, those highs and lows disappear, and then you're like flatlined, and you're literally just like this kind of like, because you don't have your own hormones, you've got synthetic hormones, so then you're literally just flatlined and you're just there in the middle, but you don't have those highs, you don't have the lows,
but you don't have the highs,
you don't have the highs either, and the lows are always going to happen, but they'll be severe if you don't take care of yourself. Also
the pill's an interesting conversation. I've been together with my wife for 10 years, so she was on the pill at the start of our relationship. Right, so, but going a couple of years when we were about 22, 23, and she came off the pills.
Yep.
And I think it maybe taken her about 5 or 6 years to hormonally recover from what's going on. There's someone called Dr. Jolene Bright and her stuff. I don't know if you came across her.
I think I
her
follow
stuff
her.
is amazing on that sort of stuff, on that. And you're right, like the answer to that is just jump on the pill.
So
and then, interestingly enough, I've got a friend who's on the pill for her own reasons, but she's having these real depressed moments, like it feels like depression. And now the answer to that after a 10-minute consultation call was, right, we're just going to give you some antidepressants now. It's like, well, we're not fixing the root cause of the problem.
There's so many women will be like, have anxiety or depression or whatever, and actually one of my clients, she won't mind me talking about this because she's now not on the pill, but she's now not on it because I told her to come off it.
Aye.
And like, do I have a right to say that? She's like a best part of me and all, and I was actually worried about her. She's like got anxiety, like severe, and she would like get up really emotional really easily, and I'm like, that's not normal. She knew it wasn't normal, and she would be on other meds to help her. And I was like, when did this start? 16. When did you start your pill? 16.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been on it? Over 10 years. I'm like, you don't know what you're like when you're not taking that pill. She's took it near enough every day for her life, like for 10 years, over 10 years. And I was like, do you realise how much this pill changes who you are, changes your body, changes your hormones, changes your, like, what you're attracted to, how you think, like, it changes your body composition, like, it changes so much for you. Like, and you have no idea what you're like. Like, you started taking that when you were a young girl turning into a woman.
Not even, that's mean. Your hormones aren't even fully developed. I know,
so no wonder you're, like, I went on the pill when I was like, 14? And it was because my periods were all over the joint. Obviously they were. I just started getting them. My body's like...
So we almost need
just start.
I'm also on it every weekend.
That definitely doesn't help.
Chapel Hall, young
eating
team.
shite, like, do you know what I mean? Like, not really eating enough, like... And no doctor was like, your periods are probably all over the place because you don't take care of yourself.
Aye.
You're not, you're drinking alcohol and you're a 15-year-old. Exactly. They'll just put you on the pill because now they can't be bothered dealing with you, and that's the solution. But that's been the case for everyone I know. Everyone. What, it doesn't matter what problem. If they've got heavy periods, you've got really heavy periods, that's a sign of something. If you've got no period, that's also a sign of something. If you've got a period more regular than usual, that's also a sign of something. If you're depressed, it's like, or whatever, blah, 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 like your skin, that's another reason why I went on it. Just rather than actually figuring out what was wrong with my hormones or whatever else, they just gave me the pill. And to be fair, the pill did fix my skin. It did. It worked.
Well, that's what I mean.
At what cost?
But it worked because I had my own hormones weren't functioning, so it was like, and my skin was beautiful. But then the pill didn't work, and I don't mind saying this because I talk about it all the time, but I fell pregnant when I was like 19,
right? And
I was like, fuck this, why am I taking this pill that makes me quite sad? It does give me nice skin, but it didn't work. And I'm like, obviously it's not 100%, but I was like, fuck this, I'm not taking it anymore. Stop taking it. But then I got post-pill acne. Jesus Christ, it was
that like?
Terrible. So if you go on my Instagram, I will have like highlights and it's about my skin journey, but I had post-pill acne. And then it settled down and it was fine. And I went on holiday, I went to Ibiza, and I always remember in Ibiza I got like a wee bit of a breakout and I was like, oh my God. But then I was in the sun and it went away. And then I came home and then it just progressively got worse. And then it took me, that's why I don't have a good relationship with GPs, because I kept going back and being like, I need help. They kept putting me on medication like limicycline, all these other things that I had already taken before when I was younger, before I ever went on the pill, because I've had acne since I was like 11, 12 years old. Like, I've always had skin problems. And they kept putting me on all these things that they'd put on me before that never worked. And I'm like, why?
They're like, give it 9 months. And then...
give it 9 months?
No,
well, I've given it 3 and it's no worked, so...
I can't go on all 6.
I know. It's so... But then my skin just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it got to a point, and all I wanted was a fucking referral to the dermatologist.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't get one. And this one GP, and every time I'd go to an appointment, I'd be on my own. Every time I went, my skin was significantly worse, and it was really bad. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see it was really, like, it was like my full bottom half of my face. It was like down my neck, and like I still get it sometimes, but it's not near as bad as what it was. And like I have scars like a lot, like all here, that are actually quite bad, but that wouldn't have fucking happened if they just dealt with it properly.
Yeah.
And the only time it got changed, I actually asked for another GP, like another appointment with another lady, and I took my mum with me this time. My mum's also a nurse, and my mum was also fed up seeing me fucking cry every night because my skin was so terrible. And my mum came in with me, and like, God bless this GP, like I didn't even need to speak. Well, I couldn't because I started crying, but I literally walked in the room and my mum was in with me. She sat down and she went, "So what are we here about today?" And then I was like, and then my mum was like, "We're here about our skin." And then she went, "Right, what age are you in?" I was like, I think I was turning 21, or I was 21. And then she was like, and then she kind of looked at the screen and she went, "Right, you shouldn't be dealing with this at this age." And then she was like, "We'll put in for a referral straight away." And I was like, oh my God, thank fuck. But then I had to wait longer for a referral, whatever, and eventually happened. Ages. But see the length of time that it took me to get that, like nearly 9 months, or 6 to 9 months or something like that. See if she just dealt with it there and then, I wouldn't have been left with all these scars. It wouldn't have got as bad as it did. Like I wouldn't have had to do like fucking 9 appointments.
Also,
so
the relationship that yourself.
It would have saved time for them and money. It would have saved time and money for me. My relationship with myself wouldn't have been damaged for about a year. Like, and I'm just like, see if you just do your job properly and actually give a fuck, then people won't be in that situation. So see, when I've spoke to women about that have went to GPs with these problems to do with their cycle, their weight, whatever it might be, and it's the same kind of story.
Exact same.
It's fucking heartbreaking. Yeah. It's so sad. And what you were saying there about your partner, it took her about 5 years to recover from that.
That was our own kind of self journey. Like
that she's done it on her own, but like that's the same for a lot of women as well. Like and that's why I'm like, just read into it. Like you'll learn so much, and you'll learn so much about your body, and you feel so empowered because you're like, oh, that's why that's happening, and I'm in control.
We're the same when we coach clients. Like we can say we're the best coach in the world, but our clients are ultimately, they're going to know the triggers for their own body, and they'll know when to push hard and when to not. Yep. We help them get a better touch with that, but ultimately they're the best coach for themselves.
Yeah,
of
I like
understanding
that. That's a good way of putting that.
I find it very hard as a single man to get that to female clients, because I had somebody not long ago and they came in, they're like, I've just been put back in a pill for my depression. I was like,
because you feel like it's not your place.
I was like, is this my place? But I said to her, I was like, I don't really think that's the right thing to do. I was like, I think this is a very dark road to go down. I was like, you're going to bounce back.
But they'll think that's the right thing to do because their GPs
be told them, I know.
Because they trust that person.
But I did have a good conversation with her and she came back off it there already.
Right, good. That's good.
Do you know what I mean? But then at the same time, I'm like, right, do I really have the authority
you do, for
to
sure.
go into a situation though?
So we talked about like nutrition playing a big part. Do you believe like lifting weights and getting stronger played a part through like homing in on your cycle and getting a better relationship with your health when it comes to
because there was always that always that notion like if you're on your period you shouldn't train, or like I don't know, as a girl and a female growing up, and like I was always sporty in school, and like when you played netball and you were on your period, it was a shocker because you had these wee tiny skirts or dresses on, and then you're like, I'm leaking. Do you know what I mean? It was a pain in the arse because you were, do you know what I mean? Because you're bleeding and then you're like, oh Jesus Christ. And that stuff, it would be annoying. So then you would always have this notion of being like, should you train on your period? Should you go a run when you're on your period?
Aye.
Because when you are running about and you're training, it's so funny. I did a post in this on my Instagram the other day, but like when I had my period like 2 weeks ago or something, and I was training with like all the boys and Demi, Greg and Mikey, the people I train with, and then we were doing back squats, and I swear to God, every single squat I was like, I fucking leaked. Like at the bottom of every squat I was like, I actually felt like I'd wet myself every single rep, but I didn't. It just feels like that. But girls will be like,
because you're overthinking it as well.
There'll be a lot of people
girls will be like,
exactly.
Girls will be like, oh fuck that, I'm not training, or they'll stop training and they'll be like, no. But it's like, you just need to get used to it.
But that's
like
good. We almost need to normalise it in a wee bit
you
of
just need to normalise because no one talks about it.
No, you don't.
But that's like, no one talks about it, so you would be like, should I train on my period? Should I not? Like, don't know. And like, there was always like the conversation of being like, your period does affect your how you train and whatever. And then you would see these girls on Instagram, and it's usually like older women that are like, you need to do yoga when you're on your period. And don't get me wrong, see, on certain weeks, I do feel like
that's a good strategy.
I feel a wee bit fucked, or like my recovery's not as great. But that doesn't mean I can't still try and still train just as hard. It just might mean I need to like take my foot off the gas one day and like have a bit more rest. It doesn't mean you need to like.
But it's almost like having a strategy in your toolbox to go, you know what, I need to make a decision for myself here. I know going to yoga will probably help, but also no training will probably help
exactly.
as well. Figure out what's right for you, not just
uh-huh.
blanket statement.
And I think girls are the cramp, they like having pain and stuff like that, or like I don't really get cramp. I usually get back pain, but training always helps it. Mm-hmm. But beforehand, I'm like,
I don't want to get
even your back. Your mindset's also like a bit affected. It's not like you don't really have as much of a get up and go attitude, especially if you're sore and you're bloated. You feel a bit ugly and you're like, my hair's fucking greasy and my skin's broke out. Like, obviously you're not going to feel great, but what's the one thing that does make you always feel better, no matter what? Training.
It gives you that wee
and
boost
eating well as well. Like, girls always want to eat like chocolate and whatever because they feel shite and they think it's comfort food and it'll make them feel better, but actually it just makes them feel worse because now they're like, oh, I've ate shite. And now I feel shy, and now
the guilt kicks in.
And then you're like, the guilt kicks in. It's just like, you can't have all those things.
It's like drawing a line in it. It's like,
just fucking draw a line and, just don't rip the arse out it.
Mm-hmm. I always find it mad, like, I've got a client and they're sitting there like, I feel shite, I fucked it. And I go, is it your time of month? To go, oh, aye, it is.
And then you're like, that's a pure
straight away. They're like, I was like, how have you forgot that you go through this?
I know.
Every month.
By the way,
they forget it all the time.
I forget something. I'm like, I look at my thing. I'm doing pizza. And it's so funny how girls are like, I literally like see on my client check-ins, you can see 4 weeks, like when I like zoom out on the page, and like we use like a color chart for like rating some of their metrics to do with like their sleep, their like water intake.
Yeah, we talk about like green, amber, red type of thing.
How good's so like they've got that. So we rate it out of 5. So like 5 is like bright green, and then 4 is like a wee bit darker, and then 3 is like amber, and then the rest like just red and whatever. And then I was pure laughing, and I zoomed out and showed a client it on when I was doing a loom, so and I was red. Like, and it was like greens for week 1, greens, some yellows and stuff, red. And I was like, do you period? I didn't even need to read it, and I went, I bet she's due her period.
Aye.
And she fucking was. Mm-hmm. But they'll not know that, or maybe they will know that, and it's a pure common thing, and you maybe get this with your female clients as well, but they'll write, like, I'm feeling a wee bit tired and I'm a bit hungrier, like, I'm due my period in 4 days, so maybe it's that. No, it's not maybe, it fucking is that. Aye. It is that. Like, if you're doing everything else right, if you're bang on with your like water intake, you've not had alcohol, you're really good with your nutrition, you're still training and all that, but you still don't feel that good. Mm-hmm. During my period in 3 days, it's probably that.
It helps with the mindset shift as well, because they think, what's the point in this? Like, I'm dialed in and I'm not feeling great. Mm-hmm. So like almost,
what's the point?
Get the self-sabotage type of mindset. It's like, this isn't worth it anymore. Like, I'm like, it's like, no, it's going to pass.
It'll pass. And it's like, they're like, it might be this. And I'm like, no, it is that. It is that. Like, don't doubt yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, you're doing fine. But there's always going to be like a week or 2 where it's a bit like of a buffer, because it's so hard. Like, you'll know this as well. Like, I get all my clients, I'm like, if you're weighing yourself, you should be weighing yourself every day, especially if you're a woman. Like, you're going to be fluctuating. Yeah. But see, the more you weigh yourself, like, I know right before my period, I gained 4 pounds.
You got it down to that T.
4 pounds, 3-4 pounds. No doubt about it. 3 days before, always happens.
Bang. And
then it stays there. But it doesn't. I've not ate any more than I usually do. I've not moved any more or less. Like, everything's the same. But I just hold on to more water, and then that's what happens. But I know that. But see, if I wouldn't know that if I didn't check my weight every day and collect all that data and have that understanding. So that's what I try and get all my clients to do, because I'm like, the more you learn about yourself, the more you understand, and then the less guilt you'll have about all these things that change and whatever.
Yeah, also disconnecting from weights in the scale, because you're doing it every day and you understand.
And you're like, that's right. And I'm like, I was out the weekend and I dropped 5 pounds. No, 5.5 pounds, because I had like breakfast in the morning, then I trained, then I had a smoothie and a coffee, didn't eat for like till like 2 in the afternoon the next day, because I was out all night, all morning, had a nap, went home. Then I was like, I actually remember when we were in my pal Sophie's and I was sitting there and I was like, I need food, man, I feel so skinny. And then Sophie was like, I'd have loved to feel like that. And I was like, well, the old me would have loved that, but no anymore. I was like, I'm gonna feel shite on Monday, man. And I went home and checked my weight, and it was on its arse. I've actually got it there, and I was like,
5 pounds.
I know, but I was crazy. Dehydrated.
It's just water's gone.
All water's gone. I've not eaten 24 hours, and I danced for about 10 hours, so it's like
two-step
my way. So away. I've been moving more, eating nothing, and then I've dehydrated. So obviously my weight's going to drop. But I showed some of my clients it, and I was like, so see, when you have like days where you like you're straight up, that's probably because you've maybe ate the same, but you've maybe drank loads more water, and you've maybe not moved as much or whatever. But you need to start thinking about these things and not just be like, oh, I've put on 1-2 pounds of fat. No, you haven't. You've just not done a shite yet.
Exactly. That's
true.
One thing as well.
That's true.
You've ate dinner a wee bit later at one night, and that's why
so digestion's not proper.
Or like you've not slept well in the past 3 nights. Like I've not slept great the past 3 nights, and like it has a massive effect on your digestion. So man, it's so bad, isn't it? It's mad. But you learn these things when you just think about them more, and then you collect all the data. So when people they don't do all of these things, I'm like, no wonder you're worried all the time.
Yeah.
Health and fitness goes beyond just the workouts and cutting your calories or calories in general. Like,
it's so, do you not sometimes think that you're like a list of things all in one? So I'm a doctor, holistic. I'm a therapist, I'm a PT, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm like...
It's hard sometimes because you do need to draw the line at some point, and you're like you said, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. So like, I need to watch what I'm saying here, but I genuinely think, like, here's my advice, like, and all this is, like, you should...
It's just advice.
I'm
just advice.
I'm not a therapist, I'm not whatever, but...
I've had had conversations like that as well.
Yeah, and it's because you care as well. That's the hardest thing. Like, we're very compassionate at what we do, and we do want to help people, and it's always like, I want to help you, but I don't want to say what I want to say just in case you don't get
you don't want to say the wrong you don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah. But then, scare them off forever.
But then again, see if they were just talking to me and I wasn't a PT, I would probably tell them the same thing. Mm-hmm. But because we've got that label, it's like...
Need to watch.
Aye.
Sure.
There's like
going
back and forth with doctors listening to this going, fuck you, they bastards.
Doctors will hate our podcast because we say all the time.
I feel like I'm blowing smoke up our arses, but like PTs or coaches or whatever are going to be the thing that fucking... saves the earth.
We said that. So, there is, I believe, the one industry that's going to help the obesity epidemic or just the health crisis that we are facing, that's going to continue to face as technology gets better, food gets more accessible.
Yep.
It's going to be a health and fitness space.
Yep.
So which leads me on to the controversial point of CrossFit, right? So talk us through your CrossFit journey then. So you got into it. You're quite a badass with it, like seeing your lifts and everything. Like, like James is like, I think
that's funny because I look at other people and I'm like, they're fucking class, but they're much better than me. But like,
it's like everything. It's the skill work that goes into it. I'm sure we even tried to do like an overhead snatch squat.
Oh,
he nearly tore his bicep doing it.
My overhead mobility is absolutely shite.
So, like, talk about CrossFit as a training modality. I feel they're quite cult driven. Like, it's like
CrossFit's like, if you want to be really good at it, it's your lifestyle. It's not just going to the gym. It's like you're CrossFit daft.
Yeah,
if you want to be really good at it.
You're CrossFit in the brain.
Do you believe it's forever? Or do you think this is a small window?
For me, yeah, for sure.
I think
I'll train like that forever. I think I actually said to Greg and Mike the other day, I really like the weightlifting aspect of it. I think there'll be snippets of like my training journey where I'll probably just focus on weightlifting for like 8 to 10 weeks and get really good at that or really better at that and focus on that skill aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And maybe like, because I'll maybe be like, oh, I'm enjoying running a wee bit more and maybe like do a bit more of that, but I'll still always do CrossFit, I think. Yeah.
So break CrossFit down? What is it in its sense? Right?
That's a hard question.
No, for people listening, because I think people just think, oh, you're just doing reps for time, and it's just a snatch, or it's just kipping pull-ups, or whatever you want to say. What would you branch it under? Like, how would you describe it?
It's hard to branch it under because it's like CrossFit and it's got all these branches. Mm-hmm. So it's like, think of a tree, but like upside down.
That's a fair point, actually, because
there's so many different things. So there's like body weight, there's weightlifting, there's gymnastics, there's running, there's long distance, short distance, like swimming. There's swimming, there's like, I mean, did you watch the CrossFit Games?
I've seen
bits of it. There's like skipping, being able to walk on your hands, doing all these different things. So if you're someone that's never really found a sport that you like, you'd probably like CrossFit because it's different shit all the time, which makes it which makes it quite hard to get really good at because you need to be good at lots of things. Now you'll sometimes
never be the best at one thing.
I really good at exactly. You need to be ideal at most of them, but like for instance, the girl that won, Laura Horvath.
Oh, she's
amazing,
incredible.
Right? But I don't know if you've watched the last few years of her or whatever, but she's not really bad, but like she struggled with like handstand push-ups, being upside down, being able to push her weight Do you know
I saw you got your first one,
and that's it. Yeah. I was pure buzzing. That's also something that I've really struggled with. I'm not very good upside down. I'm not really good at the gymnastic side of things. And it was so, like, she would do really well in like competitions in the games and whatever, but she would do like significantly worse than everyone else on certain workouts with being upside down, and that would be the only thing people gave a fuck about. She would do really well in everything else, and then that one thing that she was shit at, people would be like, oh, like if she was better at that she would win. And then this year she won, and she was just a bit like, fuck yous, because yous have always doubted, like people have just doubted her because she just wasn't very good at that one thing. But I think this sport, I don't know, when I watched the games this year, I was like, they've ripped the arse out that. I don't know if you watched the gymnastics one. They're doing like, I'm like, how far are they going to take it? It's like, because it's obviously about the fittest on earth, but it's like, is it the fittest on earth, or can you just do that skill?
I just define what fitness is, because fitness could be pure strength or powerlifting or that.
So it's hard.
It's very blended, isn't it?
It's so blended,
so I put
and
up
it's
a
like,
post saying who would win in a fight: a CrossFit, bodybuilder, strongman, or powerlifter. And a lot of people said bodybuilder, and I was like, no, they would be
at the bottom.
Show and tell. But then again, most bodybuilders who are like big and juiced up and whatever, usually drug dealers. So
they are.
Yeah.
Maybe they would win.
It's hard. It is hard to like understand what CrossFit is, because there's so many things.
Because it blends in.
There's so many different things that you'll never get bored, like ever. But it is like, if you want to get really good at it and be like a top athlete, you would really need to commit like a lot of time, because especially if you're like a beginner and you maybe aren't really good at any of it, especially that, like, and you're learning everything new, like it takes time and patience. Like it takes a long time to learn these things. Like I still can't walk my hand. To be fair, I've kind of patched trying to learn it because I got really upset the other day. Not the other day, the other week, because I kept getting up and I was actually worse than what I was the day before. And I was like, oh, fuck this. And it's really frustrating sometimes if you can't get something, but eventually you will, and it's like a big sense of achievement. But it's very blended. There's so many different things, and if you're really good at one thing, doesn't mean you're going to be that good.
How do you manage the training and the fatigue?
So
let's see,
this is funny, because
one day where it was hard, and then next day you couldn't do that.
Me and Greg and Mike actually spoke about this last week, because we were talking about nutrition, and we were saying that Greg doesn't track his calories or anything like that, but we were trying to work out what he eats. So we were like, tell us what you eat and we'll try and work it out. And it's like nearly, I think it's just over 3,000 or whatever. But there'll be some days where that's it for him. Like, he doesn't eat that much, to be fair. What I thought he would eat more, but like Mike eats like 4.5. Do you know what I mean? 4,500. Ailey, she eats like 3,500, maybe more than that. I think she eats maybe the same as him. But if you look at Ailey, like she's not a big girl, like, at all. But she also she trains like fuck. Do you know what I mean? But some days you won't. But it's the recovery, and like this. So the boys I work with, Dale and Ryan, they've just started doing a bit more functional stuff. And I remember the first week or the second week they'd started doing the program that they're doing. So they're doing the March On program. And they were writing in the group chat about how fucked they were. And I just thought, that's so funny, because I train like that all the time and like every day. And you do get really fucked, especially when you just start it. But your body gets used to it. It's the same as bodybuilding. If someone gets DOMS, you're going to get used to it. But learning how to fuel properly, and like knowing if you need more rest or more food or more fuel, like that's quite a tricky part.
And then mental fatigue.
But then the good thing about CrossFit is if you've got mental fatigue, you're usually doing it with people.
So,
but then if you're a solo trainer, that's a bit harder. Folk that do CrossFit all the time on their own, I'm like, you're
screwball.
You're screwed.
You gotta see me in here. Like, you're like, what are you doing? So I'm just getting better at CrossFit.
Because it's so, like what I'm saying, like there's so much skill involved. So if you're trying to learn another skill, it's very mentally, like Monday there, to be fair, I had been on it at the weekend, so I was like, but I missed 20 reps out of 24 for snatches. And every rep I missed, I was like,
okay.
Right, okay.
That's because of
how the ego.
And I was like, right, okay. Then I was like, what did I do wrong in that one? And I was like, right, sound. And then I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing wrong now. And I was just kept trying. And then like, it's a lesson learned, but like, that's frustrating. But I also done it alongside people that were like, no, you've got it, you can do it. Like, it's just a one-off. Like, when does this ever happen? And like, it can be very frustrating, but it's also like so good, because you when when you do better, or like when you do hit the lift, it's
That's a sense of achievement.
Yeah, it's class.
It's like working up to a lift for a weight and deadlift or something.
But for beginners, I'm like, you need to learn how to lift.
So that's really the bugbear. Probably the only bugbear. I was going to ask you, do you think you would do it if you couldn't compete? See if it was, because the way I see CrossFit, it's almost like a sport, and you can look at the top level athletes and make the argument that these top level athletes in basketball, football, CrossFit, whatever it is, it's not exactly true health, because the sacrifices you need to make to be the top athlete in it. And do you think this is something you would do if you couldn't compete, if there was no competitions? You think?
Yeah, because you can still compete.
You can always compete, but
that's what I mean. Like, and I think, to be honest,
because I would still try and compete when I done bodybuilding.
The more
you want a bigger deadlift, you want to add more on, you want to be bigger. Like,
so this is where I was speaking to James, and a lot of PTs are going into it, doing Hydrox games or cross whatever's going on, and I'm like, kind of like, I'm a competitive guy, and I'm like, kind of want to do a competition where you're competing against some other people, but then I'm like, nah.
It's all good fun, but innit?
Yeah. So
I know. I'd probably die.
It's whatever you enjoy, I guess. At the end of the day, and that's where we actually spoke about this. And was that the last episode we done, that our message has changed really for the start, because it was going after all these different things. And
that's a good thing that it changes, though.
Oh, for sure. Like, that's growth, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't. What I want to communicate around CrossFit or anything is like, here's the view from the right side, here's the view from the opposing side, here's my opinion, make your own mind up, because it's whatever you enjoy and whatever you want to do. So you said beginners, then you don't think they should go into that?
I think not.
Because I see.
So if you go into a really good CrossFit gym, like base CrossFit, base fitness and CrossFit in East Kilbride, used to be just East Kilbride CrossFit. If you're in an actual real CrossFit gym, not a functional gym, not just a gym.
I was going to say, what is functional fitness? Because it's almost like a buzzword now.
It's functional. I know,
it's a buzzword.
It's just like dumbed down CrossFit.
Right.
So because you need
but then functional fitness is just like, you can, I don't know, it's hard to explain in it. It's like, because
you need a qualification to teach CrossFit under that
CrossFit
name.
Is when you go into, like, so for instance, if you wanted to go to base and you wanted to start CrossFit, you would need to do a foundations course. So it would be like 1 or 2 sessions, and a coach either takes you as an individual or you do it in a group, where you go over squat, deadlift, your overhead mobility, can you squat, can you do this and whatever. And it's okay if you can't, you can still join, but that coach needs to analyse your movement and go, right, that person, no, you can still start, but then they know what you're going to be like in their class. Right. So then they know, if you're doing a barbell cycling class, that when you're doing your clean and jerk, like drills and stuff, because you don't have the best squat mobility, you're definitely not going to be able to squat loads, but that coach will know that beforehand, before the class. When you just join a functional gym or a gym that doesn't do these things before, you're just flung in the deep end. You're already moving shite, but no one knows your potential there, or they don't know your ability, which I don't like. I think if you're joining a gym, every single person walking through the door should be vetted.
Absolutely.
Everyone. Yeah. I don't care how many people are in the gym. Like, a coach has to look at your movement and go, right, this is where this person struggles. Give them a bit of homework. See if you do these at home. Still come to all the classes. You can start tomorrow. But when you're in the classes, there's going to be a few things that you'll struggle with, and you might not be doing it that well, but we'll get you there. But if people just join classes and gyms and they rock up and they can't move well, and then that's how people don't get better, when they just go to functional classes and that's
how they quit as well.
And because then you start to get injured, and it's like you're getting injured because you're just, no one's taking care of you well enough, and it's like, it's because people don't, I don't know, like, but in base you're not allowed to do a class unless you do one of them.
Bare minimum.
They need to see you, unless you've done CrossFit for at least 6 months.
Yeah,
you've got like a wee thing. And even when I was joining base for the first time, I was a PT had been a PT for years. So I still done one of the sessions, but it was more so like, I only done it for like, it was like 45 minutes, and they knew me already, and they just wanted to tick a box to be like, right, for sure, you're fine. Whereas if it was like just a normal person off the street, it would be like, they'd do the full 2 hours and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they'd make sure but some places don't do that. Normal gyms should do this. Like,
that's our
normal gyms should be doing it.
General. Okay, reps and there's 50 people in the room. as it, the bigger the class gets, the harder it's going to be to become to kind of fine tune.
Yeah,
and they're
so
trying to
I'm
get like 40 people in our JD class. You know what I mean?
I know. So I used to be a Les Mills coach.
Right? Did you?
Yes, that's back at that
rough,
time.
Rough.
I fucking loved it.
I bet you did.
So high energy.
Come on.
So I done body attack, and
Right.
I done like fucking 3 a day at one point and all that. But
You're
it was
almost like
good
a
fun.
hype coach at that point.
Ah,
isn't it?
it's class.
not
It's
like-
good
it's
fun.
like-
Like, it gets people moving. Like, gets your heart rate up. Like, I was fit as fuck then. Like, it was class. But it was like, at that point, like then, like I was still very much like, that's when I like coached Tasha, and I was like, wanted people to move right, and I wanted people to squat to full depth and or at least parallel or whatever. So when I would be taking like
You
body
started doing
attacks,
that,
there'd be like 20, 25 in a class. There'd be like
half rate, mate.
half of them
Quarter.
half rep it. 2 of them squatting with their heels off the floor and like their knees touching each other.
You can't stop the
And
first
you're
2
like,
seconds,
so I would be like, I know this is good, the thing about it. So when you get coached and how to be a Les Mills coach and all that, whatever, they talk about that and how like at the very beginning, it's very hard because you're so new at it. You don't really know how to take, because you're going with the music and you're trying to do the routine, but you're also trying to coach people.
Aye.
You can't really do it at the start. I was like, only doing the routine, but as you got better at it, you could walk around the class and help people.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do that, but I'm like, these people need to be,
What on their own?
they should be getting
It's almost like the
PT'd.
vetting,
Aye,
isn't it? Before you come to this class, we need to make sure these movement patterns
That you can do them, or
Yeah.
you at least understand how
Understand.
you should be doing
Aye.
them.
Aye.
You maybe can't do it perfectly yet, but you should get there eventually. And like, one, I think people just don't, because they can't be arsed. If you were signing up to a class, if you wanted to do, if you
just
wanted to go
want
to
to get the
classes
sweat,
and you were
aye.
like, I just want to sweat or whatever,
Just try to lose this.
and you would, and I was like a gym owner, and I was like, right, well, before you come join our classes, you need to come do a 1 hour session to make sure that you're moving well. Most people will, that's our barrier for you starting. So it's like, oh, I can't be fucked. I'm not going to go to that. Why would I go to that?
Whereas if they show up because their pals are going, and
It's like it's
a
very
night a
quick,
week.
and I
Yeah.
get that. And to be fair, like if there was an easier way of doing it, like it would be so ideal, because it would make things easier. But it also, like, there's just this problem where like so many people can't move well.
Yeah, and that's really what the gripe was for us communicating. No, necessarily against CrossFit for starting out in your training journey, because there's a few CrossFit boxes who,
I think
like
there's
average
places,
people will go in and they see the athlete, they see the person, and like, they look incredible. I want to look like that, so they go in with that mindset rather than, right, actually there's levels to the game and steps that you need to get
Yeah.
into. You don't just, it's not just the workouts that's going to get them shredded. It's
I
everything
know
else
this
that goes
annoys me
into
as
it.
well. The like, it's not necessarily like random imams and AMRAPs that get you to look like that. Like
Aye.
those athletes that you're looking
It's
at
everything else.
are also very strong. They
Aye.
do deadlifts and they do squats and they
Aye.
lift very heavy.
Yeah.
They're very like on point with their nutrition, and
Yeah.
they run and whatever, they do all these things. Like, they don't just do a CrossFit class, like they do all these other things, and I think people don't really realise that.
Yeah.
And also, like, some people maybe have had a background in bodybuilding or like other sports or whatever it might be.
They've got a foundation set.
They've got
of
good foundations.
physique,
So I
yeah.
had really good foundations, and like,
Aye.
I remember when I first went to base and I had maybe done like 2 or 3 classes, and after we done like our AMRAP, there was like an upper body strength section, and it was like bent over row, like, and some other stuff. And the coach, what's his name again? I can't remember his name. He doesn't work there anymore, but he was like, Heather, can you demo for us? And then I demoed the bent over row, and then like we were all working up to the weight and whatever. And I was like doing like 42.5 or something like that. And at the point, like, the girl was, I had just started, so like I'd only done 2 classes, but the girl that was next to me was like, oh my God, how can you do that weight already? And I was like, oh, I've been doing bodybuilding for a wee while. Like, I've got a good foundation. Whereas she didn't. And I was already stronger than that. And immediately she's obviously like, oh my God, she's
she's
so much
comparing.
stronger. She's comparing. But I'm like, but I've been able to come in here and do pretty decent, but it's because I've had a background
Lots of
before
training
that.
before.
So sometimes with people walking into a CrossFit gym and they see all these other people, and don't get me wrong, like, if you go into base and you do a CrossFit class, there's usually like people in their like 60s and 70s smashing it.
Aye.
There's this, I can't remember her name, but they've done a post on her the other day. I think it was maybe her birthday, and I think she's in her 70s. She's like 70 odd, and she's class.
So that's why I was saying, do you think
She's
this is something
class.
you'll do forever? Because alongside of that, there's a higher risk of injury through it.
Yeah.
Well, just with anything, you do anything for time in a way, you're going to push the boundaries a wee bit more.
I think there's obviously the higher risk of like injury because you're doing all these different things and the movements you're doing is like whatever. But I also think the better you get, the more work you need to put in for your recovery, for your rehab, for your mobility, like your exercises and stuff like that. If you do it like that, you'll be fine. But if you don't, then you won't be. Because last year I had really bad tendinitis at the start of the year, and then I like torn my quad or something like that. I don't even fucking know. And that's it just now, perfectly fine. Like that's it just now, and that's over a year and a half. And then I also fucked my back after proving grounds last year, but it was nothing to do with the training. It was more so to do with
it wasn't the 1,000 kipping pull-ups I was doing.
It was like I was actually doing power cleans when I'd done it. But it was like 35. I was like muscle cleaning it. It wasn't heavy at all. And I just felt a wee twinge, and I was like, that feels weird.
It's never the heavy weight that you end up putting yourself into.
It's never something that somebody thinks.
It's always the light stupid weights.
And then I also didn't sleep well. Like I slept like 4 or 5 hours a night, trained twice a day, 1 hour and then 2 hours, and then like I had just done a comp and trained really hard up until that. Also, it was my left knee that was fucked for like 8 months before it. So I always, when I done like box jumps, or if I didn't squat for like I didn't squat for over a year there, but like up until then, and I hurt my back, I didn't squat for like 8 months. I deadlift, but even when I deadlifted, it was sore on my knee, so I would always lean on that side, compensate on that side. So it was like, I was in my head, I was like, well, I've got 2 competitions. Either I patch them and I don't do them, and I don't do it, or I like rehab as much as I can while training and doing what I can. And like anytime I'd done Olympic lifting, I would power it, like so, like power snatches, power like cleans. Like I would never squat. I didn't squat for so long, and then I fucked my back. If I didn't fuck my back, my knee wouldn't have get better because I wouldn't have slowed down.
You wouldn't have stopped.
I wouldn't have stopped.
This is the personality type going into it as well. Like you said, like that girl that's comparing herself already to you. You always need a good sound check on your ego, because your ego can easily. And this is what I mean. Like the people who are usually attracted to CrossFit, it's like go,
yeah.
And it's like, no, you need to chill. It's like okay, and then you see in their story and they're like, I'm not chilling, mate. I'm going.
Oh, exactly. So
I've got that problem.
You're like right.
See, right now, I've been up since
I said to
1 o'clock last night, and I was like, "Do I train today?" I was like, "No, what you doing? You're fucking idiot. You're not training." Like I was going to train before this, and I'm like, no, I've had like 3 hours sleep.
I know, and it's hard. It's because the voice in our head is like
go,
stronger.
You should be doing it, and you're like, So if I didn't hurt my back, so I really hurt my back. I didn't train at all for 2 months. And then when I could move a bit more in my upper body, I trained upper body for 4 weeks. But even at that, hanging from my bar was sore on my back. Like I couldn't relax. Like I couldn't do a dead hang. I couldn't pick up anything heavier at that point. So after 8 weeks, I still couldn't pick up like a 10 plate. Couldn't work either. I was fucked. And then
that's not bad.
But it made me.
CrossFit sounds great, man.
But it forced me to like slow down and like take care of myself. And like now I'm like
right back in
my coat. Like I did have like a lot of weaknesses to do, like my glutes and like imbalances and whatever before I even hurt my knee and all that. So it forced me to like go look, you need to fix these small things that they might not seem that big right now, but you're not going to get any better.
So that's one thing I would say. Like people say about the squat, bench, deadlift. People say about that. Risk of injury only teaches your body to be better once you get fixed.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? You go, this is weak, this is unstable, and then you fix that and you've got a way stronger body. So we can say CrossFit is higher risk injury, but it's also a higher risk of learning about your body probably as well.
I compare it to when I first passed my test and I was driving like a maniac everywhere, right? Fucking right round corners, and I crashed my car. And I was alright, but that crash allowed me to become a better driver, because I was like, well, I need to chill out here. I can't just go around bends at fucking 50 mile an hour. So it's in a way like injuries do teach us to become stronger. For sure,
like
I've
learned so much from having a back injury, because it's also
don't recommend it, by the way.
Don't fuck yourself.
But like if I've got clients and stuff, I'm not a fucking physio, but if I've got clients that have wee niggles here and there, I'm like, do you know what? Like it could be this, could be that. I'd recommend that you go see someone if it's really that bad. But why don't you try a few of these wee things that help me when I've got like a wee bit of pain here, and like if you've sat on your arse all day and then you've tried to train, like need
what
to
does
do a
your
lot.
warm up look like everything? It's not just walking on a treadmill.
Yeah,
it's your
exactly.
hip mobility. We're big mobility guys, and it's not a sexy topic, but it's something that we're constantly
yeah, I love your mobility.
Aye.
18, by the way, I do need to go.
You'll need to wrap up.
Need to wrap up.
Okay.
So we'll definitely get you on again. So I want to talk about like the whole photo shoot side of things and all that with you as well. So
we'll get Ailey in for this because
I'm actually surprised how much we get into there.
I know. No, there's much more to talk about.
Me and Ailey will talk right about this because Ailey does photo shoots with all her clients.
Did you listen to my photo shoots?
She was passionate about it.
Aye.
Well, she'll be good to talk about.
I quite liked how she portrayed it. I really liked it.
No, absolutely. And this is the whole point of our podcast. It's no like, oh, we're right, we're two guys.
It's not like that.
It's bringing different
short form content maybe looks like that, but it's not like that.
So thanks for coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me. I've had fun.